Hi, Victor.
Hi.
It's nice having you here in our cozy studio. Hello, everyone. Here we are in the AML Certification Center studio with another interesting interview. And today we're having Victor, my friend and also my colleague of fighting financial crimes. He has a broad experience starting from the local police office when he was fighting those criminals, and now he's fighting those criminals on behalf of one of the Estonian or actually Latvian banks, and he'll be talking about his interesting experience with some real life cases, and also we'll be covering some different and interesting topics like the work of a bank in the AML sphere and etc. But let's start from your biography. How did your career start? From which point did you understand that you will be fighting criminals?
Yeah, let's start from the very beginning. I graduated from the Estonian University of Security Sciences back in 2010. And subsequently, I was hired by the Estonian Tax and Customs Board Investigation Department and started to fight against tax fraud. But it was very interesting because as a young man, what do you know about taxes? Those times it was even difficult for me to fill out the tax declaration for the private person, not to fight against the financial crime in that sense. So it was very complicated and very interesting to learn a new field and to understand how the actually criminals are behaving and how can they catch them. And if we are talking about this career as a whole, there were a lot of interesting cases, and probably it will be a good thing to speak about those.
You've mentioned that you've come to the Tax and Customs Board really young, really green. But did you have some sort of training maybe to help you get used to that work, or help you explain those things on what you'll be working in the future?
Yeah, actually not. It's a surprise, yeah, but actually not. I had a mentor who was experienced investigator and who helped me to be onboarded, but it was, yeah, as I told, pretty complicated. And if we are speaking about the cases, so I want to have one example where the main goods from where the tax was evaded was salmon. And the scheme was pretty complicated. Salmon itself came from the Norway through Latvia and to Estonia. And criminals had several parallel schemes from where they had, again, different or another goods that they didn't pay just the taxes. They were showing that the taxes are paid by the company that was shadow companies, and they just disappeared in some time. And those criminals had, well, let's call it net profit of €1 million per month.
Wow.
And
astonishing.
yeah. And what was interesting in this case, especially in those parallel criminal schemes, that the goods itself, it was some, I don't know, bricks or woods or something else, some electronics. So they were not carried by the transportation company, they were just stored in the warehouse. And in reality, the car, so let's say the vehicle who was transported those goods, they were actually not on it. So it was empty. But for the purposes to show that the economic activity of the company is real, the truck was just traveling from Latvia to Estonia without documentation. And if this trip succeeded, they made all the papers showing, yeah, that goods were transported to Estonia and having this tax back.
Yeah, that's an amazing example of a common tax fraud. Yeah, and criminals still are doing that type of fraud. Yeah.
And if I now think about how the banks can identify this kind of frauds, this is pretty complicated. If you have all the documentation provided by your customer, you don't really know was it like transported or not, because no one from the bank will go and check the truck. In reality, you will receive only documents, and you need to have a trust between the bank and the customer. And if we are talking about kind of some stories, those silly stories, then criminals use different channel of communication, which we wiretapped. And we were with my friend. Now we were sitting somewhere near the warehouse and checking, is the truck in reality loaded off or not? And then criminals, they saw our car because they knew everything, and called to the boss and told him that now it's 110 and come here. And we didn't know at this time what is that. And when the boss came there, he stopped just nearby our car and started to search. Where are the policemen? And we were just in our seats.
You were just really scared because not to scare the criminal.
Yeah.
That big
If
boss.
he spots you, then the case is closed.
Yeah. So that's how your career started, actually, from tax and customs board, where you were searching and finding those criminals, uncovering those complicated schemes, how they perform tax fraud, etc. And it really impacted your future career as well when you understood that, yeah, that's my thing. But when did you understand that? When did you understand that, yeah, I like that?
Well, I started to analyze the financial flow, so the transactions which were made by the customer, not the customers, the criminals, because this was, again, very complicated. They used different banks in different countries, and even with the help of the Europol, we weren't able to identify the full flow of the full transaction flow, because we saw the beginning, we knew the end of it, but we couldn't put the puzzle
together. Yeah, that's really complicated. And that's what typically AML departments in the banks are obliged to do as well, to uncover those suspicious transactions. So yeah, it probably has helped you a lot, that experience. Yeah.
And after 8 years, I was thinking, okay, maybe now is the time to move further and to start career not in the public but the private sector. And I joined Nordea Bank. And in the beginning, I had very interesting task to build up sanction screening team in Nordea Bank to screen Finnish domestic transactions. It was a new obligation by the regulatory body in the Finland. And as you can imagine, I'm coming from the police, knowing nothing about the sanctions, and start to interview people to get them on board in the bank and to speak about the process. So I was pretty shocked and just tried to think and learned about the process just in a few days. And I had, so let's say something like 150 interviews in 3 months and onboarded a team of 23 people.
Wow. Yeah, that was a pretty complicated project, pretty difficult. Yeah, I can imagine that. You know, when you don't have an experience in some subject at all, like sanctions, which is pretty complicated. Like nowadays, we're having a lot of sanctions, and yeah, and especially for the Finnish, for Finland, which is another jurisdiction at all.
Exactly. But during this time, how I managed it, I was studying my master's, and I wrote master's diploma on the sanction screening, how to simplify the process, to make improvements, or improvements to how we can do it efficiently. And I use business process management tools, and they showed to the management, and we in reality simplified the process. But after that, I thought that now I know everything about AML and sanctions, and then I thought that I can move further again, and I moved to ABB, leading financial services of ABB in Sweden and Denmark. During this time, I started. It was interesting, but in 2 months, I felt that I need to get back to AML because it was in my heart.
Yeah.
But so as you know, you cannot just find a job like that. And I started to consult cryptocurrency providers here in Estonia because those days it was very popular. It was something like 2019, 2020. And I had several customers who I helped to get licensed here, and they was very happy.
Yeah, it's really important to have happy customers.
Yeah, as all the financial or credit institutions should have. And then I moved to SEB Bank, and I was a project manager in KYC. So I was managing Pan-Baltic projects on KYC matters. And if we are talking about some interesting cases again, then the first one again was how to detect crypto transactions of the customers of SEB.
Yeah.
I was building up this typology there in ongoing monitoring of customers' behavior. And another one was adverse media screening system implementation. So it was something new in Estonia overall, and it helped me a lot to gain great experience on all the data, all those projects, management, implementation. We worked a lot with the IT guys because they were the party who needed to establish and implement all of the systems in the real process.
Was it some kind of outsourced system, or it was an on-site development?
Yeah, it was outsourced. So we had a lot of communication with the system provider, which is well known in the world, very big company, and again, it was very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool that you have a wide experience in terms of the years, and you've seen how the AML landscape has changed from that time. But how it has changed in particular, do we have more? I believe we have more different AML helping technologies right now, like you've mentioned adverse media screening. We didn't have it like 8 years ago. And as well as we didn't have any cryptocurrency transactions. No one knew about cryptocurrency transactions, and not talking about the monitoring of those transactions. Yeah, and now the banks are full of different technologies that are helping the staff to identify suspicious transactions, to uncover those transactions. Yeah. Can you also mention maybe how the landscape has changed in terms of the regulations of AML?
They become, they become more like scrutinized, because so we can speak here again about the sanctions. So as you know, starting from 2022, or even before that, from 2014, when all the situation in Ukraine started to develop, then the sanctions packages, they were like gained out by the European Union in very short time. And for the bank, it was pretty complicated to implement all those new names of the companies, of the private persons, and another sanctions in the system. And not all the providers can implement all of those in 48 hours. But our regulator they say that it need to be implemented like this.
Yeah.
So all of our sanctions screening department, they're putting all the names in the system manually throughout the full weekends, and then only on Monday the provider itself have done it. So it was like crazy job that our guys made. So it is very interesting. But if you are talking about overall AML, the changes have been made, but the main thing where we are like forwarding now, this is about the efficiency. A lot of resources are put in the AML, but it's not effective overall. There are a lot of false positive alerts. There are a lot of different kind of troubles in the AML, and now the systems, they try to provide some things like AI
Yeah.
to simplify the work, but it's not really working in the reality. It's like a big promo that our system is
Yeah,
using
it's
AI.
AI based. Yeah. But actually,
But it is only a very small part. But indeed, it helps, of course, it helps. But if you want to change everything, this is a huge, huge project. And in the financial credit institutions, you are lacking of IT resources because the main focus is towards the customers to simplify everything. So let's say nowadays, very common digital onboarding, not only for the private persons, but for the companies, also to the legal persons. And we want to have more products like, so let's say post terminals in your phone, new cards, insurance programs, and some other stuff. And all the IT now is focused on this one. And this is very hard when you need to have something implemented in AML to simplify the work. So you need to fight for that.
yeah, absolutely. So you probably need to have another IT team of IT guys who are only focusing their efforts on AML.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because if we are talking about different technologies, you should develop them like constantly for them to work normally.
Exactly. And this is, of course, the demand of the regulator that you need to develop your monitoring scenarios at least once a year. And this is like a huge work. So you need to take all the statistics, how many real matches you had during this time, on which scenarios, what you need to change in the scenario to be more efficient. And in this place, of course, new employees are very, very efficient if they have a good knowledge, if they were well trained, then they come and bring these new ideas how to improve it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we are training people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the financial sector to have more skilled workforce that can just come to answer the bank and tell the bank something new. Like yeah, of course, like the banks always have some internal training, but when it is done externally, it can bring some external knowledge for the development, which will help in the development of the overall compliance program as well, because they can bring some fresh ideas, yeah, and etc.
Yeah, and especially when you have different experts from different financial institutions, the whole content will be much more better than based on one financial institution.
Yeah, absolutely. Like anywhere else. It's sort of yeah, you have only one bank. It's like with the I don't know which analogy to put right here, but it's like about global trading. Yeah, you can have like everything made in one country. Like you can have that closed economy, but when you are partnering with other countries, yeah, you have more technology developments in your country, like with the resources. If you partner if you bring fresh ideas from different counterparts, from different industries as well, then you have more efficient knowledge system in your organization. Yeah, that's why we believe that outsourcing knowledge is really, really important here.
Yeah, sure. And if we are again talking about the AML and how the sharing of the experience is important, I just came some days ago from the Netherlands, where we also shared our experience with the Netherlands Banking Association and other big banks. So we have the same problems, but they already have some interesting developments on how the system could be efficient. So let's have an example. They are not doing any local sanction screening on the transactions. I mean, local transactions in the Netherlands. That's why they're saving a lot of resources. As they told, this is something like 25 million alerts per month, which will be generated if they will have local or domestic sanction screening. But now in Estonia, it's under the question, and our regulator, it doesn't have a clear view on how we can stop doing that. On another side, that we can see from the banks and our participants of the financial market, that we are screening our customer base on daily basis, and it doesn't give us any more insight when we're screening transactions, because all the customers are screened. The portfolio should be rid of the sanctioned person. So what is the idea of that? And of course, if we are taking into account this European regulation on the instant payments, you cannot really stop it in real time. It should be done in 10 seconds.
Yeah, there's conflicting regulations when you need to perform sanction screening, but another regulations on instant payments, it says that you cannot stop that transactions to perform the screening. So it should be done. That's how the banks and other financial institutions are sort of getting used to that. They are getting used to that by developing their systems being in real time.
Yeah. But if we are speaking about advantages in our country and our AML regulations, we have a very good clause where we can exchange information between other banks and financial institutions. And as far as I know, I've been to Malta last year and now in the Netherlands exchanging experience, and they don't have this kind of advantage. But we have this tool like a messenger. It's instant message you just write. So to another bank, do you know about source of funds of this customer? Because we cannot see it, as the customer is using two accounts. So the main account is somewhere in another bank. So this helps us a lot. And the same about fraud cases. If another bank identifies a fraud, it writes this instant message to us and saying that your customer is involved in the fraud, please stop the transaction. So we can very efficiently fight against the fraud here.
Yeah, absolutely. By sharing experience, by sharing knowledge. Yeah. That's why exists, for example, FIU.net, that where all the data on the persons like related to crimes and etc., or who have had the suspicious transactions in the past, are being in that list, in that FIU network. Yeah, that's really efficient, but not anyone knows how to use that. Yeah,
exactly. And if we are talking about the regulators that we have, so we are pretty similar all over the European Union, but this is again that we are lacking of. This is constant feedback on the reports that we have sent to the FIU. as I understood from our Malta colleagues or from the Netherlands, that they have more of this feedback. So the regulator says, was it the real case in the end or not? We don't have this kind of...
Yeah, that would be really efficient in terms of those false positives as well.
Yep.
If you would receive that type of feedback, it's how did the case end? Like
Exactly. So, and based on these kind of cases, you can, in reality, you can develop your monitoring scenarios. So you know what were the risk indicators related to this customer and his, her, or its transactions, and then you can improve it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned that you recently went to the Netherlands on behalf of our Estonian Banking Association to share the knowledge and experience of the work of their banks and FIU with us, and as well to share our knowledge with them. And you've mentioned an interesting fact about the phishing. Could you tell us, our viewers as well, about that interesting fact that they have there?
Yeah, and for me it was also pretty interesting that they were speaking about fraud cases, and one of the topic was the statistics, how the different kind of frauds developed in the Netherlands. And one of the things that I saw was decrease of the phishing fraud cases.
Mm-hmm.
But the scams was at the top point. And how they described why it's so low, because they integrated your personal ID card into the process where they verify like the real person. But for us, it was already implemented from the very beginning when the digital onboarding in the banks was just established. But this was pretty surprisingly low after they implemented it, because previously it was like anonymous onboarding. You can put or write a name that you take from the ceiling, and this was fine for them to accept that.
Yeah, interesting. Really interesting.
But if we are speaking about our fraud cases in Estonia and about the trends that we can see from our experience in Citadel Bank, that the fraudsters starting to use couriers. So they are calling to the victim. They're speaking about the victim's card, that the data on the card or credentials are wrong, and they, as a bank, they will hire a courier to pick up the victim's card, and they are also asking for the PIN code to be added with this card in the envelope. And afterwards, in some time, the victim will get a new card by the banking employee or the employee from the bank who will bring it to the customer or the courier. So, but what I wanted to mention, not each bank, nobody, so let's say nobody will use the courier to bring or to take the credit cards from the customer.
Yeah, that's also a responsibility of a bank to educate their customers as well on those, because it's really important. We have people who believe those fraudsters because it's easy to believe. The fraudsters are really convincing. They make different and really convincing stories up, and the customers can possibly believe them because they seem like really convincing.
Yeah. We are investing a lot of money in the prevention, and all the banks in Estonia, and from the recent statistics we can see that more than And so let's say even 90% of all the inhabitants in Estonia say that they are acknowledged about fraudsters and they will be able to identify one of those. But what we can see in reality, all the numbers, they are just growing from year to year. All the investment frauds, phishing, scams, everything. And it was like 2 or 3 months ago, and those fraudsters, they are very active, and it was even happened that from the elder guys, they are taking the apartment and all the money from the person, and person is homeless in the end. And we had 2 cases in Estonia of this kind of fraud. So they're calling to the victim and saying that this is very secret police operation and need to go to the notary and to write the apartment on the fraudster's name and give all the money that will be given from the forces to the victim. And they're doing. And in Latvia, they have the same trend.
Yeah, everyone is aware, but we still have those cases.
Exactly.
That's possibly related to that we actually, like banks as well, educate people on some fraud schemes, but the fraud schemes develop as well.
Yeah.
We need that training on a daily basis. I don't know, like a possible idea is to implement it into the banking app. Like when you log into your banking application, you can see, like, for example, some news regarding the fraud cases, like we have identified a new scheme, please be aware of that. Like
by the way, ING Bank in the Netherlands, they have the special app when you have a call from the bank, like a banker who is calling you, and he or she, he is telling that my name is John Smith, and the customer is able to check by the phone number during the call, is it the right person who is working at the bank or not? So this was like pretty cool.
Yeah, they have that system implemented in their banking application. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the possible ideas. I don't know, why don't we have that in our banking applications, but it's pretty simple technology. And yeah, that's really efficient, that which could help prevent some possible fraudsters from frauding people.
Yeah, maybe the last trend also that we have now in Estonia, because we are like digitally developed country, and most of the banks have digital onboarding, and the youngsters or students who wants to make some easy money, they are applying through this freelancer job portals for, let's say, just to transfer money to the unknown account and have a fee from that. And this is what can we see from the Citadela Bank and our customers. But the baddest thing, the youngsters and the students, they don't really know which kind of consequences they will have in the end, because it's already a criminal case.
Yeah, that is happening because they're not aware.
Exactly.
And possibly it can be really efficient to have that sort of education in schools, because as you can see, those that are being convinced, that are applying for such criminal professions, as to speak, like for those, that's fraud. That's type of fraud. If a student applies for that position, which is being made by a fraudster.
Yeah.
And as you can see, the trend is that the people who apply to those positions are youngsters who are not aware, like sufficiently aware of such cases. Yeah, that's probably why we should have that sort of education in schools as well.
Yeah, a kind of the course.
Yeah, kind of a course, or I don't know, like some bankers could come to a school to talk about the possible fraud cases. That please be aware of that. That is also a cool example from the reputational side. Yeah, maybe we can do that actually.
Why not?
Why not?
Financial hygiene.
Yeah, financial hygiene courses for schools.
Yeah.
For free. Yeah, absolutely amazing idea. Yeah, and socially important. So you mentioned that the Netherlands FIU has some differences in their approach comparing with the Estonian FIU one. But we also have some differences here. We also have some cool features that they don't have in the Netherlands. For example, I was participating in one AML conference last year, and one of the bankers from the Netherlands was asking the lecturers, the presenters from a bank as well, on what do you think about the business registry, how we can make the business registry in the Netherlands, because right now they don't have a user-friendly business registry that we have here in Estonia. For example, they don't have it, and also they don't have an access to the populations registry as well. That's a really convenient resource that our banks use here, the business registry and the populations registry, and those resources really simplify the process of onboarding. Like, they simplify the process of KYC like a lot. Yeah.
And I believe, and I would say that this is our advantage here, that we can use those, not the public, but private public, or just the registers which are not available for everybody. So the banks can use it, state registers, so let's say like that.
Yeah.
And you can be sure that the person or the entity is fully identified and verified, and this is real. And if you don't have, so this is very, very complicated for you to make it clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from one side, it also raises the risk of data processing. This raises the issue of data processing, how you process the data you get. But if we are talking about a bank, they have like really good systems in place to process data, and by default, they are processing data well. And that is simplifying the AML procedures a lot. Yeah, by a lot.
It wears again the question about the GDPR. So how many information, or how much information do you need to process the personal data?
Yeah, because sometimes the banks process unnecessary a lot of data. Like it's also should be implemented a risk-based approach as well, or as to speak, data-based approach, data sufficiency-based approach. Like how much data is sufficient for you in that, and you should understand that, and it should be made clear to the KYC professionals as well, because the KYC professionals are the ones, KYC staff are the ones who are asking the client questions, and how do they know how many questions is sufficient? Yeah,
if it's stipulated in the legislation, it's very, very simple, that you need this data for the verification and identification of the customer. But if it's something else or more that you need,
Enhanced due diligence, for
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
or in some big cases where you issue a loan, so you need to check more deeply the background of the customer and put more due diligence measures on it. So, and now is the question, how much data I will ask for this need?
Yeah, what is more?
Yeah.
Actually.
History of the back payments for the loan from this customer, or overall history of the customer. I don't know, some criminal proceedings that the customer had, or something similar.
Yeah. It's a question. All right. So your delegation to the Netherlands was really efficient in terms of knowledge sharing. Maybe you want to share some differences or some experiences they shared with you as well. Maybe something interesting.
Probably about the sanctions. So if we compare two countries, from the population perspective, okay, the Netherlands are very big and we are pretty small in that sense, but the territory is the same. And if we see or check our countries on the map, so geographically, we are close to the neighbor who is very or under a lot of sanctions, and they are a bit far away. But indeed, they have pretty similar problems, because companies from the Netherlands, they have also business activity with Russia, and they need to be compliant with all the sanctions regulations, regimes, and the laws. And it was very good example provided by the colleagues from the Netherlands, that how can you be sure that you're sending flowers to Russia, which are not sanctioned, and flower bulbs are sanctioned, so how can you physically control it if you have all the documentation in place which says that this is flower? So this is their concern. From our perspective and experience that we can see today, maybe more trending cases are about the cars, expensive cars, and the spare parts of the vehicles. Very, very common scheme that I have seen recently. Estonian customer is buying spare parts from Germany, and after that selling parts to the Turkey. And you don't really know those parts will stay in Turkey or they will go straight to the Russia. Some customers provide the data, some are not, and this is like those cases where you can have real sanctions matter, or circulation of the sanctions, and probably not.
Yeah, the sanctions subject is really complicated right now. How can you possibly identify the end customer of those spare parts, the end receiver, in which country he will be based? Yeah, you can tell it like everything that goes to Turkey goes to Russia. But is it the responsibility of a bank to identify the end customer? Like that's also the question.
And yes, it is. The recent change of the law, so international sanctions law of Estonia, I think it was approved some days ago, probably Friday last week, that the banks, they need to be compliant with the trade sanctions also. And now all of the market participants, they need to report trade sanctions to Estonian Tax and Customs Board. But on one side, okay, you can think that it is easy, but from another side, when you don't have any goods mentioned in the free text field of the payment, how can you be sure that those are the goods that need to be reported to the regulator? Again, you cannot physically go there and check it. You have only small tariff code, or the tariff code of different goods, and you don't probably have a price of the good also. So it depends on the sanctions regime that you have. But this will be a new challenge for all the banks here.
Yeah, yeah. The regulations change, and as well, the banks should change their approach to sanctions, to AML regulations overall. Yeah, that's why this sector is really complicated, but at the same time, really interesting.
And one of the main things here, and I think that will be very, very good for the bank to have people who have a knowledge. Because without the knowledge about the sanctions, you can do anything. You can analyze, investigate for long as you wish, but in the end, only expertise will help to prevent obeying sanctions to be circumvented.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've talked about the sanctions, and that's really cool. But let's now switch to the overall AML risk. How is it different in Netherlands and here local?
Let's start from the local one. So back in 2029, we have updated national risk assessment. And regarding that, the main industries which are under high risks, the first one is fintechs, so virtual asset service providers, also NPOs, but special NPOs which are related to religious activities or charities. And if you compare to the Netherlands, so they have the same emerging risks, especially which concerns to cryptocurrencies. Of course, the second one is cash-intensive business and the third-party payments.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk more about the cryptocurrencies and the attitude of banks toward the crypto companies as well. Because now in Estonia, we don't have many cryptocurrency companies left. But we have a lot of them in Lithuania and in other European countries. And probably with Mika, the licenses will be of many companies will be withdrawn. But what is the banking sector's risk appetite towards the crypto companies?
Yeah, we can see this trend of the reducing crypto licenses in Estonia already for several years. I believe it was something like 2019 or 2020 when our FIU got a new head, and they started to de-risk this sector. So previously we had something like 20 or 2,000 virtual currency companies here who provided the service. Yeah, if we compare to the banks that we have 13 and 2,000 WASPs here. So it was pretty huge number. And now we reduced. Today we can see that it's something like 50 companies who provide virtual asset services. But in the future, probably the number will again decrease because the regulatory part is or will change. So FIU will not be issuing any more licenses for those companies, but this role will be in FSA hands.
Mm-hmm.
And probably it will significantly reduce the companies. And some other market participants, they say that in the end, we'll have something like 10, 15 cryptocurrency companies here in Estonia.
Yeah, that switch of the supervisory body from the Financial Intelligence Unit to the Financial Inspection, FSA, Financial Supervisory Authority, it means that the crypto market is mature, is a bit more mature than back those days, and the sector can be considered as a part of financial system. Therefore, it is going to be supervised by the Financial Supervision Authority. And this will significantly increase the regulatory burden of these crypto companies because considering the FSA's approach to the regulation of banks, to the supervision of banks, the burden of the regulatory burden will increase for the crypto companies. And but possibly it will decrease the number of withdrawn licenses because, as we can see, the Financial Supervisory Authority, their approach is much more risk-based and not so de-risking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from this,
they have much more resources for that, for the supervision.
Yeah, from this point of view, that this is harder to get the license, but if you already get it, and if you will be compliant with all the regulations, probably the license will stay with you. And as you previously asked about the banks, how they are or how they do, so how they think about the crypto companies. So probably this part will also change. So if you will have WASPs who are licensed by the FSA, you know the quality, you know that they're compliant with all the international and local regulations, then for the banks it will be less riskier than it is today. If you like take all the banks in Estonia, so only few of them have a relationship of the as a corresponding banking with the cryptocurrency companies. Because for the bank, it means that you need to have pretty similar systems to check all the transactional flow of the respondent institution to be compliant with all the regulations. And if the respondent institution will not be able to be compliant, then you as a correspondent bank, you are obliged to. And now this is the risk. And regarding most of the banks' risk appetite, they are not willing to take those risks and to work with the cryptocurrencies today.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they see, they cannot see the full transaction. Actually they can. They just don't want to spend many resources on that because it means that you should implement those blockchain ranking systems. Like, for example, we have those technology providers, won't make the promotion of them. But yeah, we have some different technology solutions to rank the cryptocurrency wallets, and the banks also could use that when you can identify, for example, if a client of a bank receives some amount of money, amount of fiat currency to his bank account from some cryptocurrency exchange, he can just provide his crypto wallet number, his name, and the bank could possibly check the overall risk of that cryptocurrency wallet. Like, is it related to some anonymous tokens, for example, which would significantly increase the risk of that crypto wallet? Is it related has it had any transactions or any money from the high-risk jurisdictions, for example, or is that cryptocurrency wallet related to the cryptocurrency wallets of some known criminal organizations, etc.? And by doing this, the banks could use their risk-based approach, and not to de-risk the cryptocurrency sector at all, because that's also a part of financial system right now.
Yeah, of course, and I fully support the travel rule, which need to be implemented in the transactions in the blockchain, because all the KYC data will travel with the wallet of the certain person. Yeah, but this is again, as you told, and it was right, that with some common coins, it will be okay. But with anonymous coins, it will be not again. So this is the part where all the risks should be measured.
Yeah, which is why. But this is the future. Maybe with the travel rule full in force, the sector and the bank's attitude towards crypto companies will change as well, because it will give more transparency to the cryptocurrency sector and less risk. It will reduce significantly the non-compliance risk, the risk of non-compliance and the AML risk overall with the travel rule, but only for certain companies, certain coins, certain wallets, which are based in the European Union. So it's really important to enforce the travel rule globally, not only on the European markets. Yeah, absolutely. So this is about the risks, and knowing that navigating this landscape of AML risks is really complicated and can be sometimes really difficult to pay attention to some specific, as to speak, parts of those specific risks. And maybe you have some best practices or a good guidance for the newcomers to this sector, or for also for the AML departments of banks. Maybe what should they pay attention to, and maybe some tips from your professional career. That would be really amazing.
The first thing, which is very essential, is knowledge. So you can be certified, you need to have these basics of the sector or the field where you're working. So let's say AML, KYC, and the second one is, of course, experience. If you can compare everything in one course, so first of all, just the theoretical part, and on the other hand, some practical examples, this will be very essential for all the sector who will start, and also the people who will start their career in AML or KYC field. And of course, exchange of the experience. As I also previously told, that you need to have this broader view. You need to gain other good examples on how you can fight against financial crime, what tools could be used here, and this kind of approach should be implemented to be efficient and also compliant.
Yeah, that's true. So the training part is really essential, and it should always be up to date with some fresh examples, some fresh real case studies as well. That's what we are doing, and trying always to improve our product as well with the fresh knowledge of experienced experts like Viktor, for example.
And maybe I want closing remark that you need to be interested in this field, and you need to know that each of your steps that you are doing in your process, this could help you, the bank, and the country to be free of the money laundering, free of terrorism financing, free of sanctions violations. So this is a broader view, and we are working to be world being more safe.
Yeah, the actions, every action you make, every suspicious transaction you report, it has significant impact on the overall financial system. Not only on an individual's bank compliance strategy and compliance policy, but it has broader impact. Maybe you are reporting at a transaction that is related to child trafficking, for example, not only drug trafficking, and you can by doing this, you help the authorities who then review these transactions and report to the police and etc. to Europol if we are talking about some global cases. And those actions really matter. Every action you make, every day you come to the office and review the transaction if you are a transaction monitoring expert, or when you are reviewing a personal client, if we are talking about a KYC, then yeah, every step matters. It's really important to understand that you are part of something really great.
Yeah. And you can feel that this is very routineful work because you have a lot of false positives, but in the end, you need to be very, very focused to detect the real suspicion.
Yeah,
this is the challenge.
Yeah, let's give some let's characterize that in 2 words. Let's decrease the whole guidance to 2 words, knowledge and understanding, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not only about knowledge, but you should understand your knowledge and apply it. Consciously. Yeah. All right, Viktor. It was really cool having you here, and I think we'll see in that cozy studio again.
Yeah. Thanks for a great discussion.
Thank you.